pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to have a moment of silence for Lori, who will be with us. Thank you. We'll start out with approval of the minutes. First and second. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Thank you. GC1, the resolution supporting a Senate bill S 7645 that repealed search division for the executive law establishing a fee for background check and on certain firearms and ammunition purchases. Okay, we have a first and second. Any other discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay. Thank you. Next up is a resolution authorizing chairman and clerk to handle all unfinished business on December 31st, 2023. Motion. Okay. First and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Thank you. Resolution number 3 is a resolution fixing the time and place for the 2024 organizational meeting. All right. First and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Anybody opposed? 4, the resolution authorizing adoption of an amendment to the municipal agreement as well as applications for funding to support the development of improvements to wastewater infrastructure within the village of Phoenix and town of Shreveport. Which will increase the treatment capacity of the wastewater and help out when they have a lot of extra water in the village. I think that there is one.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. This basically clarifies, to some degree, the role that the county will play. There's lots of different grants that fund this project, including money from us and money from the IDA. But some of those require like specific language in order for the funding agency to recognize us and the role that we have in the project. So this cleans that up a little bit, and also it adds a section that talks about greater collaboration in the future between the town and the village and the county and the IDA, so that we can be aware of and involved in, if we want to, other mutually beneficial projects going forward. There's been, over the years, some hasn't been the best communication between the town and the village, and so we want to be part of the process going forward and make sure that that doesn't happen or slow things down in the future. So the version that you have, the town late on Friday asked if we would change it slightly. It's a small change in the new section 6, that talks about those relationships. And it pleases the committee if you can pass this pending the county attorney's approval. He's not here today. I don't expect he's going to object to this, but I'd like to have him see it before it goes to the floor.
Okay. So we want to pass that, but in regards to having that changed, right?
Pending his approval, the changes in section 6. Yes.
What are those changes?
What changes would there be in section?
So it's very minor. It's semantics, really. It's in the very last sentence, and it says basically, in addition, with or without an agreement for any reimbursement of the financial assistance and support provided by the county and the IDA, In an effort to maintain this mutually beneficial working relationship, the town and village agree to keep the county and the IDA informed as to any discussions related to future growth opportunities that could be mutually beneficial to the parties and the respective communities they represent. Version you have says that they have to invite us to the table as equal parties, and the town felt that that could really be intrusive in some things that we don't really need to be involved in. And so they suggested that we get rid of the whole section, and I said, no, I want to keep the section, but what if I soften that last sentence a little bit? And they were fine with that.
But we're going to be giving them money toward this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was committed in 2021.
The original amount of money.
The original money was, yeah, right.
And the IDA is willing to put into it like $1 million.
Also in 2021 committed that one, yes.
Is there any time frame on this, or just statutes out?
So the only grant that is, so there's $750,000 from Empire State Development. That's a grant to the village, and they have until 2029 to spend that. And then there's a HUD grant that has to be spent by 2030. Other than that, there's nothing that has time connection to it.
My only concern is if this continues to delay, which you have seen,
Yeah.
and some of that other funding goes away that we're counting on, that we're still on the hook for $1 million, gotta get somewhere else.
So right now, we're waiting on the results of the application to the Environmental Facilities Corporation for about $2.4 million. They don't ever post, like, we're gonna tell the results on this date or this month or this year even. So you're at their mercy. And once we know that, we'll know what the gap is. Right now, if they funded that whole thing, there'd still be about 1.5 million short. Well, we've been talking to Department of State and Empire State Development about trying to find a couple ways to close that. And frankly, we said to the village, look, this has to happen, and so if we can't get that closed some other way, you guys are just going to have to borrow the money and make it happen. And they said, fine, we'll do whatever we have to do.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Fred. I'm not opposed to this, but is there in here, what is the capacity going to create? How much more capacity in housing and that?
So this will pretty much double the capacity of the treatment facility. We're using a process that's commonly called store and treat. So while we're replacing some equipment that will increase capacity, also adding a big holding tank. It's very common, so when you have wet weather activities, which is when the village has their problems, you just put it all into a big tank and then treat it as the capacity becomes available in the facility. And DC is fine with that. They've used it in many other communities in central New York. So it'll go from about just over 500,000 to just under 1 million gallons a day.
Which is how many households? How many extra households is it going to be able to,
I can't tell you the number of households in 500 gallons a day, but right now they're under a consent order, and for every one new unit that you add, you have to subtract the equivalent of 2 others. So it's very tight. They had Burn Dairy build a store there, which their only use was sinks and toilets for the employees. And in order to get that approved in the region, they had to go to Albany and get like the commissioner of the DEC. It went all the way to the top of the DEC to get a small project like that. So they're in a very tight situation, and this is going to solve a lot of it. In fact, we had a conversation with the DEC about 5 weeks ago, and they like the scope of work, and in fact, they're going to come back with a new proposal on the consent order, and they think that this project will solve their concerns.
The reason I'm asking the questions is I know the city of Fulton is doing upgrades to their wastewater treatment plants to increase their capacity to somewhere in the neighborhood of 17,000 additional residents. Now, will this help the capacity with the industrial park that the IDA owns the property, and are they going to be, who is going to be paying for the wastewater?
Yeah, so the main purpose, the reason we're involved in this is that you can't really add anybody with any use to the industrial park.
Right.
And so this solves that problem. That's why we're involved. And now with, people banging the doors down to get in there from micro-related businesses, we really need to get this done. There will be, it's hard to say, I can't say definitively that there will be extra capacity for more housing units. We don't expect that the development that's going to occur there right now, based on the people who have inquired, not going to get like a yogurt plant or something like that that's going to use a lot of capacity. Most of it's going to be the sinks and toilets and that type, right?
Okay, and whatever industrial waste, stuff like that. Okay. Good enough. Okay, thank you.
How many gallons are those holding tanks they're gonna put in?
I think it's about 300,000 gallons. Can't tell you for sure, but I can look it up in the scope and get back to you.
That's correct. Okay, we have a first and a second to pass that through.
It's amended.
As it's
We'll
going to
add,
change.
it's amended and approved in the county attorney.
We're going to have to prove it later at the regular meeting.
He's at a conference today. He'll be back tomorrow. I expect he'll sign off on it then.
Just a second, any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Next up, we have a resolution adopting the County of Oswego Local Law Number 8 of the year 2023, entitled Local Law Establishing Department of Workforce Development. Got that. Okay, first and second, discussion on that? Yeah, so okay. Other people are already. Any discussion? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Next up, we have a resolution establishing 2023 county equalization rates for towns and cities within Oswego County. We have a lot of them.
Yeah, just as a reminder, these are equalization rates set by the state. They require us to adopt them for some reason, can't change them. The equalization rates have unfortunately dropped this year, and that forces tax rates in the towns to increase regardless of what the county or the schools adopt.
I make a motion. Yeah.
I'll second. I think if they had done their adjustments to the different towns and things, that they wouldn't have to deal with higher tax increases. They only stayed on top of their assessment.
Yeah, it's sometimes when you have a boom in the market value of property like there has been, it's difficult for municipalities to keep up on those, making those assessments match.
Yeah, it only takes a few houses to raise everything up. State comes right out. We're stuck with. And then it's expensive for the towns to go through having it all redone.
Yeah, this equalization rate, what that really means is that the state that says you're evaluating your property for less than they think it's worth. So it's all based on value, and so the lower your equalization rate you have, the more per thousand you'll pay. To match up the 100%. So everybody pays the same, except it doesn't look that way, but it is that way. And that whole system is set up many, many years ago, when and assessments between the various towns across the counties and states that were kind of really initiated because of the schools. So somebody in my district, say Sandy Creek, they're assessed $100,000 help. They get assessed at $100,000, but the same house in my town may be assessed $50,000. So by doing this equalization rate, everybody's going to say pay the same percent on the school budget, regardless of what your assessment is, and that's what that is. Then, I'm pretty close on that.
Pretty close.
All right, yes.
I just wanted to say that to solve this issue, I'm hoping that we as legislators can go back to our towns and talk with them about the importance of doing these revals and reassessments. And I think it's a really bad news because we had a little market boom in real estate, as Jay knows, but I think it's a temporary thing. Those values are really escalated and it's gonna come back down and then we're getting hit where we don't, it's not really fair. So.
Okay, we have first and second on that. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Thank you. On the next up, for the reporting departments, we have the Board of Elections.
I just wanted to bring it to your attention, and hopefully you can correct the problem. Number one, I've been at the Board of Elections 25 years, and through the years, we've seen the favors of people being brought into our office. Since I've been there, every one of those people have, on my side, has been put in by me, and they're there for the career. They're not there for a political anything. And they all do a very, very good job, and they're invested. They don't want to have to go anywhere. And we did the changes in rates for the people in the office this year. And when it came back, the deputies are going to be making less than the election specialist, which was our senior clerks, when overtime kicks in. So I would like that to be adjusted. And they were at step 10 and a 14, and now they're at 1 and 2 is a grade 30 instead of a 20. And I'd like to see them to go to their 10 and 14 steps in the 30. They're well worth the money. They do a good job, and as y'all know, the Board of Election has changed so much in the last 4 years, and they have to have a law degree to know these laws, and it's just impossible. But so that's what I'm asking of you, is if you could please see it fit to bring the deputies up to their previous
Previous step.
step.
Okay,
Please.
previous step. How do we go about that, Paul?
The motion's on the floor on 14. And we've also discovered that in the, I don't know if you had corrected and tentative already or not, but the commissioners, in the original draft budget, their salaries had not been adjusted. And we've caught that most of those adjustments as well.
I will say that I included a page from the buildings and grounds because our deputies are actually making the same rate as the cleaners in buildings and grounds. And the only other people at the deputies' grade were custodians. And
Key people.
well, I think that with literally 150 changes since 2019, we have new machines, we have new poll pads, there's so much that changes that a 4-year cycle to train people how to get through these elections is the time. I would like to keep and retain the people that we have and that we're very grateful for. So I put together that study, and with the enrollments for various counties. And I just do think that we've been a little out of whack for a long time, and would appreciate your attention to that discrepancy.
So we need a motion to move this ahead, or we're just gonna bring it up at the floor?
No, what we can do is we can talk with the commissioners to see where they think those salaries should be, and then there's always a motion on the 14th to correct a lot of salaries based on things that happened since the tentative was adopted, so we can include any adjustments in that motion.
Okay, yeah.
We do very much appreciate
So would
the
you,
people in our office.
Did you have something?
I have a question. What's the process for catching this before it gets to this point?
It's,
I mean, should the folks be coming up to us sooner? Or?
that was kind of.
Before we send the draft out, we ask the department heads to review everything, to get a copy of just theirs. Yeah. So we have a way for that to be caught, and I can't remember whether you did or not, or.
I looked at my salary and it hadn't changed, so I just assumed that none of the salaries had. That was my fault. I didn't catch it.
I think we caught it, I think Veronica may have caught
Veronica and
it
I-
later in the process, once we got towards the tentative version.
Right.
Because we're constantly reviewing it for mistakes throughout the
With
process.
Peggy,
Yeah,
she agreed.
yeah, I just,
It wasn't her.
I messed up. I'll take the-
Well, it should have been adjusted in the first place for the draft, with the rest of the personnel items.
I just wondered if anyone could speak to how it compares with the compensation study results. Has anybody compared the two?
All we have right now, we have data, I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know what I
Maybe we
can
might
take
wanna take a look
we'll
at
take a look at that too.
Right, we'll have it for
It's
the
the whole
next meeting.
purpose that we did it,
Right.
right?
And I think this sheet, is this the one you put together, Laura?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Right,
sir.
those salaries, I think, are from 2022. They're not the 23 salaries, on the elections.
I'm not sure. I think they are 23. They're from last year. Well, no, they're from 22. Yes,
Right,
you're correct. I know that there was 7 years where the commission, before I got there, where nobody got a raise at all for 7 years. So,
right, and then the last version of the management plan, we added the commissioners
correct.
in to that they would get the same increase as the rest of the departments. And that's-
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Right,
I've always been a champion for equal pay for equal work. And, to try to, compare them to, janitors or cleaners or something like that, I mean, that's hard to do, but as far as I'm concerned, at the Board of Elections, that's one of the most important for the taxpayers and the voters, that we have equal pay there for equal work. And if the other, counties are paying for this, whatever their amount is, I think we should equal it. I mean, we, at the last time you raised the salary of the poll people, I asked the board to be $250, but we only got it to $200. But the thing is, Board of Elections is very important. The elections, everybody has been hearing everything about the elections, this is wrong, that's wrong. Well, these are the people that are gonna make it right and not make it right. So that's where I say that I'm in favor of bringing them to the rate that they should be at, if they're comparable to other counties with equal voters, equal amount of work. So I'm in favor of that. The only thing I'm gonna be against on the floor is department head raises. It's the only thing I'm gonna be against, okay? The only department head raise that I think that should go through is the Board of Elections, because that is the one that is most important to me and to the voters. So I support you on that, and I'm sure that, there's other people in here that will bring it forward on the floor at the next, at the full legislative meeting. And I'm sure that we hope we can put things forward, because I know you have people out there that are working out there that are still on public assistance. And it's sad when you're trusting them to make sure that all the elections are correct. Everybody's, qualified to vote, everybody's, registered to vote, and here we are, we're not paying them, but other counties are paying. So that's my spiel. Thank you very much.
Well, I will say that we are looking forward to next year with no small amount of trepidation. There's 3 elections, there's 60 days of early voting. Last year we had 3 elections and a 41-day manual hand recount. We actually certified that election December 22nd. So Christmas was Chinese food last year. So next year is going to be challenging. And we just sometimes feel like we're in the trenches out there. So anything you could do to make it a little more palatable is appreciated.
Thank you.
Pat, you remember the year that I put in for you guys to get a 17% increase, and you got voted down on the floor. And then the next year, you did get a raise, I believe it was. But that was, what was it, 8 years ago?
Probably.
Just before I got there. I've been there 7 years now.
One quick question for you guys. On this list, I see I'm trying to understand, what's the last column for? Everything else says, you got your county name, the salaries.
Any voters?
No, but there's another one, there's a number of employees. Oh, number of employees?
No, number of voters.
There's a number of voters, but there's,
Jay, if you flip it over and look at the back, that's what.
Yeah, there's a heading.
It's the number.
okay, so the number of, full-time employees. So there's 10, is that a 10 for us?
Yes.
All right, how does that compare to, it looks like it's,
Well, there's a minimum staffing bill now that's going through, and we're just about right. So,
there's some of the other counties that you've got are much lower than ours. A lot of 6, 4, that you highlighted. All right,
We've been 10 for as long as I've been there. There's always been 10.
Well, there's a lot of wage pressure these last couple of years because of inflation. And I think we're all aware of it, and we're all adjusting the best we can to be equal and to be fair with it for all of our employees. So we're look at this.
Yeah.
I look forward to what Phil brings forward to us.
well, it's hard to make people want to get a promotion because you get more responsibility and not a correlating amount of money. It's so you get double the responsibility and 20 cents more an hour or something. It's hard to retain people. I know that this is the first time since I've been there that we haven't trained new people this year. So this is good because we're going to need everybody's experience to go into next year, which is going to be, if it's any way, shape, or form similar to 2020, we had 12,000 absentees and 11,000 people early voting and 60 days of early voting, and it's any manual hand recounts again too. We did not budget for that. That was a 41-day nightmare, and I say a little prayer every night that I don't go through that again. That was awful. But here we still are.
But, again, these people are invested in their jobs. They all want to be there. They all enjoy what they do. They would like to stay. And, some of them are pretty low. Pretty low as far as the wage, which we've corrected.
we'll take care of that the next time. All right, next up, we have the county clerk, Barry.
So I just want to let everybody know, so we are, current month, we're a month behind when it comes to balancing our books, as always, through Munis, checked up the revenue on Friday when I left, and we made our yearly revenue goals, so that's through the end of October, so we're in a pretty good spot there. Once again, pistol permits are up, of course. Not as high as last year, but they are up significantly compared to the average year that we've had. So that's a little relief that we made our revenues, because you never really know until it's all accounted for. So, looking forward to next year. We have a new retention fee schedule coming from DMV for us. We're hoping that that's going to increase our revenues. I'm cautiously optimistic on that. And along with that, I have 2 developments that I'm going to roll out here starting in January. And I have a 3rd security one that I started on. Actually, we're starting today. So we're doing our verified checks, where every check that's written in the county clerk's office has to be manually entered into our bank account and then verified by a second individual as well. So that's just an offer. It's free. That's offered by our bank. It's a little bit of a pain, but it's something that I think is important for transparency and that extra checks and balances. The other thing that I'm working on right now, and hopefully we'll have confirmed for a release date of January 1, is going to be where you can put basically attach a warning to your name. So if any property transactions or anything comes into our office, you can be notified that that is going on. So trying to move the office forward, give an added level of protection to each one of our constituents. So more to come on that, but I just wanted to let you know that we are moving forward and have some new developments coming for the office.
So like an identity check?
To a point, I don't want to call it that because I don't want you to think that, everything you do out there is being protected by the county clerk's office, but it's more for, deed transfers and judgments and things of that nature.
Just a quick question. You said people can sign up for this. Well, why wouldn't it be automatic? I mean, because the only people that are going to know if they can sign up for it.
Because I don't know how to contact you based on a deed that you filed in 1964.
Could be the last address from then.
And
We'll talk about it.
that's
You understand what I'm saying, right? Because only the people that are aware of it.
I understand what you're saying, but there's no way of doing that without you going in to put in your new information, because in 1964, you didn't put an email address.
We'll be notifying people that this
Our
is available.
software company will.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'll put it out in press releases and all that stuff, yeah.
But I mean, we won't go mailing to the people and say, hey, listen,
I
this is
can't
available.
afford to put out a mailer to 117,000 people. I mean, if the county ledge wants to give you that money for that, I would be more than happy.
Well, it just seems like, a lot of people aren't going to be aware of this. To Ed's point, how are
Well,
people going to know about
And
it?
it's going to rely on my partners in the legislature. There's 25 of you. The information office, my office, everything from social media right on down to word of mouth. And we are also planning when we release this to go out and do a couple press conferences with this.
Also, to Ed's point, is that there's a lot of elderly people in this county that own property that don't do emails and don't do Facebook.
And like we're doing right now for the pistol permit recertification through the state police, we're willing to help you as well through the computer to put this together and everything, because I have a lot of constituents in my office that don't have a computer, came to one to recertify, and we've been handling that. So more to come on it, but we will do our best to get that word out there.
Okay. Any other questions for Terry? Okay, next up, we have the strategic initiative for the department. Dave?
Yeah, so one of the initiatives that we've been working on for a few years now is expanding broadband across the county. We did an RFP and got the results back. We had 4 respondents. One was determined by Holly's office that it was not responsive to our inquiry. So basically we had 3 to choose from, and we interviewed all 3 of those, completed that last week. We're waiting for some information back from one of the 2, what I'll call the 2 contenders. And once we get that back, we'll be able to do a better analysis and comparison. But I think anybody who was participating in that will tell you that those 2 responses were pretty good. One is focused only on what the state and federal government calls unserved or underserved addresses, and the other is a focus on every road mile in the county. And until we have the other information back, we can't really give you like a good dollar comparison for what they cost. Both of them rely heavily on state and federal grants. Some of those only the internet service provider can apply for, and some only the municipality can apply for. So it's a mix of opportunity, and they both are experienced. So I'm looking forward to bringing something more concrete to you at our next meeting about that.
Dave, is this the same effort is coordinated with Central New York Regional Planning?
So we coordinated with Central New York Regional Planning on determining the number of unserved and underserved addresses we had, and challenged what the feds had originally, but they weren't really involved in a process to actually build out. They're just helping us identify how eligible we might be for some of those funds that were focused on those metrics.
That was part of their survey that they did?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Rick?
My question is about ARPA funds.
Yeah.
I saw where P-TEC returned, the information that I had, P-TEC returned their funds.
Well, we never officially entered into a contract with them. So yes, they were authorized money.
Right.
There were a couple of issues with that. One is that their application was to fund the actual training of more students.
Right.
Well, that's a 5-year program, and the money that we allocated was only enough for one of those 5 years. So we really didn't respond fully to their application. And then there were some other technical issues about transferring money between governments and schools, and just a few other things. Phil can probably describe that better. But we had a meeting with them, Phil and I, week, to talk about another way to perhaps utilize those funds that would help to get more kids trained, but it's be a one-time lump sum allocation, more like a capital improvement project than actual student training. So helping them get more space, more equipment, and the way that they've got it structured, it's around a grant that they're eligible for. It's 50-50. Our discussion with them seemed like this would be an innovative way for us to take the money that you've already allocated for the P-TEC program and use it as a challenge grant to the private sector partners, which they have, I think, 22 different companies that support the P-TEC program. And so they need about $700,000 to $800,000 to match this grant that they're applying for. Our award was 430 or change, I think. So if we have to do a new contract with them to allocate the funds properly. But we could say, P-TEC folks could say to their private sector partners, the county put up X amount of money. If you guys can fill the gap, you match it. We need to get to this number. County gave us this much. You guys close the gap. We're good to go. So I think that's going to be discussed tomorrow in EDP. They're going to make a presentation, and they'll have more details about that then.
Well, I saw that. That's why it seemed that they're going to come back again. Because I think it'd be advantageous for the county to, because I had heard that the reason they didn't really go through with the contract is because they were worried the county wasn't going to be able to match it further and be able to, extend this out longer. So that's what I had heard. So yeah, that's fact. So I think it's something that we definitely have to support.
It's an excellent program.
I don't see any way
Yeah.
we cannot do it, not with, everybody saying, even without Micron coming, okay? There are jobs out there that are not office jobs. And we need the kids to be able to get into that, and we need the education there to help them with that. So I'm all in favor of that, if it comes down to that. Okay, thank you very much.
Every time we meet with them, they have a new interesting story about one of their graduates. And when we were there last Friday, they told us a story about this young man. He graduated from the program. He had done various internships with companies throughout the program, which is their standard practice. Typically, they end up in like a manufacturing environment. As like a technician or kind of quasi-engineer, and they do pretty well. I know like Novelis starts some of those people at $70,000 to $80,000 a year, 19 years old, 20 years old, and some of the other companies are in that range as well. This particular young man really shopped himself around, and he ended up at National Grid as a supervisor in the line department, dispatching line teams around to do the work at 19 years old, making $140,000 a year. So it's a great program.
I think so. I really, I've supported it all along.
I'm 3 times that age, maybe I should apply.
Get 3 times the amount,
Yeah.
The heck? Okay, I'm done.
Any other questions for Dave?
I just have one other thing that's important, and Phil and I will be talking to you more about it next year when we get some more information. So you've heard from the beginning that we had to obligate all our funds by the end of 2024, and they have to be spent by the end of 2026. And all of the external money is obligated via a contract with the recipient. But we learned just recently that they've changed how they describe obligation. That includes even the internal money. And basically they said you have to do that via some committed instrument, like a contract. So to take, even though they said just take $10 million and put it in for revenue loss, use it as you will. Now they're saying that an appropriation in your annual budget is not technically an obligation under this federal rule. So we've got to find a way to secure those in a way that the feds will accept. And Phil's been very active with NISAC and NACO to get them involved in trying to straighten this out. But I mean, when we take those internal funds and say we're going to put it into emergency management for this position, there's no contract that says we're doing this. It's your budget. And the feds aren't accepting an appropriated municipal budget as an obligation. So
The question remains is, the personnel record showing we expended that money by paying that may suffice. We've got a meeting next Friday with Schumer and Joe Grant's people. I'll be bringing this up.
yeah, it's fine for what we've done, because we can go back to the budget and say we put this much in and we spent that much. There's the record. Or we paid this person.
And we have the receipts and,
Right.
well, no, per person, but most of what we use ARPA money for did involve purchases and contracts. So I think we'll be okay in that regard. We just need to clear up the personnel section of it.
Yeah, the real problem is how do we obligate the money for 25 and 26
Right.
going forward,
Right.
so it meets the federal definition of obligation.
So we'll be working on that over the next several months through NISAC, NACO, and our federal reps.
You all set there?
Good.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, next up, we have real property, but no one's here. We have public defender.
Yes, since the last meeting, I put out 2 offers to 2 attorneys. we should both be on board by the middle of December. So staffing wise, I'll be about halfway with the attorneys. I am fully staffed with paralegals, and investigators. And we just started, we have been taking cases out of Oswego City and arraignments from Oswego that go into the other towns. And we just took Fulton City over starting Friday, which between the two cities are the bulk of the criminal cases within the county. And it should be, depending if these two new attorneys come in, starting in the new year, we'll be taking everything out of the counties. Hopefully by January, we should be taking just about all the criminal cases, except for conflicts and stuff.
You have any questions?
I see that there's going to be a discussion in F&P about the salary for first public defender. Is that fact or fiction?
No, I think the one for the senior that was approved by the legislature, but somehow it didn't go through with finance. That's going to be taken care of. And then there's two APDs, one for about 87, the other's for 103. But the first assistant has started and he's been approved.
So it says set salary for a senior assistant public.
Yeah, that was done by the legislature. Somehow, for whatever reason, when it was done, it was missed by F&P, so it's just going to come back and they're going to just take care of it.
Okay, all right, okay. And be able to look at it from what it was supposed to be. All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, we have one here. Motion? Second.
Yeah.
Everybody in favor?
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.